Hey guys, Stigler here, Alan Dickerson, doing another unboxing for you. This time for a new GMT release called RedStorm, the air war over central Germany in 1987. So this is a hypothetical World War III gone hot in the 80s. And it's a game designed by Douglas Bush based on the Downtown system by Lee Brimacombe Wood. And so there are now 3 games in that system, first of which the aforementioned Downtown, and that was followed several years later by Elusive Victory, which deals with the air war over the Suez Canal in 67 and 73. So this one is going to be kind of an update of those two with even more modern systems, third generation aircraft and whatnot. So this should be fun. So the back of the box here kind of sets the scene, gives you a preview of the map, the counters, which look to be pretty similar to the earlier ones that came before it. Complexity is high, an 8 out of 9, and solitaire suitability is medium at a 6. So let's tear the shrink off this and see what we get in the box. All right, it's a nice hefty box here. Slide it open, and we can see that GMT is continuing with its, slightly more reinforced boxes of late. This one is a little bit thinner than normal, and got a bag of baggies and red and blue dice. One, I guess, for the Soviets, one for the Americans, and they are D10s. Then we've got our rule book here. Nice semi-gloss paper, weighing in at 60 pages, and there's some color in it. Some examples of play. Seems to be based around the case system, so the rules should be in pretty good shape. I imagine the rules for the system are pretty settled, but there's been some technological advancement since the 73 Arab-Israeli War, so I imagine there is going to be a suitable amount of additions to the system rules to bring it into the 1980s. This looks pretty good. Then we have our scenario book here, and this one's fairly hefty too. This one is 60 pages too, and of about the same stock as the rule book. And here we even have some nice color photography. Bunch of scenarios. Let's see what we've got here. Here on the front, we've got, wow, a lot of scenarios here. Looks like 30 scenarios that bear the RS designation. I guess that just stands for RedStorm. Then there's a RSC, maybe that's a campaign called Eyes on Target, and 4 solo scenarios. So even the people who like to play by themselves have been well represented. Then we've got an appendices book here. This one weighs in at 28 pages, of additional information, airfield locations, examples of play for the scenarios. Pretty well supported package, it looks like. And now let's get into the player aid cards. Here, the system is pretty dependent on often used and reused tables, and there's usually one for each player. This one looks like the Soviet player aid card, followed by the American player aid card, which has similar things in it, and probably a little bit of delta to deal with the different types. Oh wait, over here I can see we've got SAM data, so maybe these are for the Soviets, or maybe it is for the Americans, since the Soviet SAMs would be firing at them. And now we've got a Player's Aid card number 3 even, dealing with flight quality, bailouts, ordnance speed limits, air-ground attack tables, damage tables, weather tables, hemisphere diagrams, campaign runway repair, etc. Okay, so this is a pretty deep package and seems to be supported with a lot of stuff. Here we have Player's Aid cards 4 and 5. 4 is a single sheeter, double-sided, with more tables and a sequence of play. Then Player's Aid card 5 is a fold-out for bots. Wonder what that is. Maybe it's part of a solitaire system, so that you can determine what the other side is going to do without straining your brain too much. Got random events. Yeah, full solo rules, sequence of play. So the bot is random decision making. Then we've got in here the aircraft data cards, which are important. They have all the information needed to fly any of the aircraft types. This first one here is for Belgium, Canada, Netherlands. And we've got the US Air Force next. And this one is deep enough to also include the UK and the Federal Republic of Germany. And more air-to-air weapons here. Then we've got the Warsaw Pact USSR data card, which is also a fold out here. And then on the reverse, we've got East Germany and some capsule summaries of the likely Warsaw Pact aircraft. Wow, lots of charts and tables. Now we get into the counters. Got the typical sheets that would come with the system. A lot of them are informational in nature, and a lot of them are counters that merely identify different flights that you will load out on separate sheets. Here, vehicles, more information counters, more aircraft flight counters, good solid colors, thickness is good, and looks like they probably won't require a lot of clipping if you're into that. Okay. Then finally we have our maps. And before we get into the maps, got a rather thick pad of flight log sheets that the players will need to fill out to plan their missions and keep track of them mid-game. Now the maps. Got semi-glossy, about medium weight. I could probably do with a slightly thicker paper, but here we have a pretty interesting device that I've seen in a couple of games where the urban areas are colored in this purple color and they don't use the usual dense patterns of rectangles for cities. I have some really nice ridges here and hilltops with altitude marked on them. Looks pretty good. Airfields clearly delineated so you can get a good view without having to lean in too far. So here we have Essen, Dortmund, Düsseldorf, Solingen, Köln, Bonn. And on the second map, I imagine we'll end up down near the Austrian border, I imagine. What do we have here? We have, here's Kassel, Mühlhausen, Erfurt. So we're getting Fulda. So we're getting near the East German area here. The eastern part of West Germany here. We have Würzburg down there. We don't get as far as Munich or München. Well, I would say there is an awful lot in this box to recommend this. Should be a lot of fun for a student of modern warfare to dive into. And I look forward to possibly getting this on the table, as well as getting into the first two games of this series. This series has been on my back burner for quite a while, and now I'm glad to finally get a chance to really come to grips with it. All right, so this has been Stiegler doing an unboxing of RedStorm.